Welcome to Right on Track, a songwriting podcast. Thanks to Tone for tuning in. I'm Demi Michelle Schwartz, and I'm thrilled you're joining me on my songwriting journey. So kick back and relax, don't fall flat, and remember, stay right on track. Hello everyone, welcome back to Right on Track. I am so excited because I have a very special guest joining me today. Please welcome to the show, Noah Guthrie. Hey Noah.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great, how are you?
I'm good, hanging in there.
I'm so excited you're joining me today because we're going to be talking all about the emotional journey of creating an album ahead of the release of your new album, Blue Wall. But before we get into this, can you share with the listeners a little about yourself? I know you've done incredible things from being on Glee to opening for some incredible artists and more. So can you share a little about your journey?
Yeah, I guess just the gist of it. I'm a singer-songwriter from South Carolina, and yeah, I got my start on YouTube like a lot of people did, and when YouTube was still kind of becoming a newer platform for musicians and stuff, I decided to kind of take advantage of that and started posting these like cover songs and stuff on YouTube, and got some notoriety from that. Had a few viral videos, and then I also ended up on kind of out of the blue, I ended up on a show called Glee, and it was fantastic. Had a really great time there, and it was kind of my first time ever doing acting or anything like that. But it was a good blend because I got to do some music with the acting. And then after that, I've kind of always been on and off the road. So not only am I a songwriter, but I'm a performer, and it's just kind of that's been my life since I was 17 or 18, and I've had some cool spots along the way. I've been on America's Got Talent, and I've sang on Dancing with the Stars, and all these other kind of random shows, and have really just learned a lot along the way. And like you said, I've opened for some really cool people. My favorite is I've opened for Willie Nelson a couple years ago, and that was fantastic. And I think that's going to get to happen again. So fingers crossed for that. But yeah, it's been a fun journey so far. Just doing my thing and trying to build a community around my music.
That's fantastic. It does sound like such a fun journey. And now you're about to release your album, Blue Wall. How are you feeling about that?
I'm feeling great about it. I think this is an album that I have had recorded for a while now, and it was just about to come out right as the pandemic hit in 2020, and it just really threw things for a loop. And now it is finally coming out. So in January 14th, the whole album will be out. I've got a couple singles out. Got one single out right now called Only Light I Need. Another coming on December 10th. I have another one coming out. But anyway, it's a journey that has been going for quite a while already, and I'm really excited to finally get this out there.
Yeah, I know. I totally relate to that. My album, Dear Diary, was supposed to be out in May of 2020, and it came out in October of 2021. So, like you, got pushed back super far. And when I finally released it, I was like so happy it was finally out. And so I'm really excited for you to experience that so soon. So let's get into this conversation by kicking things off with a great quote by Neil Peart. Can you please read that?
Yeah, sure. So the quote by Neil here is, "What I've learned over the years is that the craft of songwriting is trying to take the personal and make it universal, or in the case of telling a story, taking the universal and making it personal." That's by Neil Peart, and I agree with that. I agree with that a lot, actually.
I think I had to read this a couple times to really let it sink in, because when you think about it, as songwriters, when we get inspired, it's something personal to us, but in order for others to relate, we need to make that universal. On the other hand, if it's a story that is more, universal, that many people can relate to, that drives the plot of the story or the song, in order for us to relate to it, we need to make it personal to us. So it's a really cool two-way connection, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. I think, I think it's always an interesting thing to try and take something that, you as the artist are either struggling with or thinking about or just kind of meditating on for a while, and taking that topic and really trying to make it, personal yet appealing to everyone that listens to it. It needs to be a song that whoever listens to it can find something in it that they relate to. And that's always an interesting little battle we fight with ourselves as writers.
I definitely think so. And I think emotion plays a big role in that because no matter where we are in the world, we all have these same human emotions based on our experiences. And I think at the heart of every song is that emotional connection. And so I think that's what we really need to nail down as writers in order to make that connection.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm honestly, you've come to the right person for emotional stuff. I tend to cry at the drop of a hat, it seems like. So I think honestly, how I feel music most times is just on a deep emotional level before I even think about whatever song I'm listening to in a more, logical way, or try to start picking it apart musically or however. But I usually, if the song is good, it's because it connects with me on a very gut level, like an emotional gut level.
I completely relate to that, 100%. So now let's talk a little bit about your single, Only Light I Need. This is a beautiful song, such a great message. I love it so, so much. So can you share your inspiration behind this song and what it means to you?
Sure, yeah. So Only That I Need was written now a couple years ago, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, I wrote this with two really great singer-songwriters. One's name is Adam Roth, and the other's Tim Bruns. And I was in Nashville one day, and we just got together and started writing. And this one kind of wrote itself after we had a chorus in mind, and after we got the chorus established, it really did kind of write itself. And they're not all like that, but this one definitely. I don't know. It was almost like the song just really, as cheesy as it sounds, it just really wanted to be written. So, to me, this song is it's about how, as crazy as things have gotten, especially over the last couple years, and as crazy politicized as everything is, this song is about remembering what's actually important to you. It's about kind of taking stock of what you have, and I think more importantly, who you have in your life and around you, as your friends and your family and just your personal relationships. It's about taking stock of those things and being grateful for them in a lot of ways, and just really realizing what you got. And I think through the pandemic especially, it was just, this song took on a whole new emotional meaning to me. And when you were really, you during the middle of it, we weren't sure, okay, I don't know when I'm going to see my friends again. I don't know, when I'm going to see my family again. And I'm not, at that point, I wasn't sure when I'm going to see fans again at shows and stuff. So, I think this song really helped me through the kind of darkest parts of the last year or two. And it's really special to me, yeah.
Wow, I love that so much. And you said some things that I want to unpack here. So, one of the things you said was during the pandemic, this song took on a new meaning for you. And I think that's really important because when you have songs like this one that's more timeless and has a universal message that anybody can relate to at any point in time, that's great because it meant something to you when you wrote it, but then now you still connect to it. And down the road, you and others will also still be able to connect with it. And I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, I kind of think that's the mark of a good song that kind of has legs. It's got, I guess, staying power, really. Because I wrote that when we wrote it, it was still about that, but I don't think I had really let the weight of the message of the song kind of sink in until I had so much time at home to really spend time with it and get close to it. And it does. I do think songs, while what you recorded is more of a constant, I do think the feeling and the moods and the messages can kind of change their meaning over time. And I think that's because we all grow and we all move on to other things and grow up in different ways, and sometimes the song grows with you, which is I think is kind of magical personally.
I completely agree. And I also think it's important how you said also earlier how you kind of found comfort in the song in a way because you were able to relate to it even though you wrote it. And I think, as a songwriter, how do you find that? When you first write a song, you get these emotions out. And then when you listen back to it and sit with it for a period of time and find comfort in it yourself, can you talk more about your own personal connection with your emotions and your songwriting?
Yeah. So for me, pretty much every song starts with an emotion, really. I mean, because that is what I'm trying to do is connect to people on that level with my music. I'm trying to connect to people with their emotions, make them feel something, and also make them think, but mainly make them go to this place with me when I write this song. And most songs start out in that way. It's either I'm feeling a certain way. I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling could be an overwhelming sense of joy or something the day that I write it. But it's just I try to take that base level emotion and put words to it, and kind of like what that Neil Peart quote said. It's trying to make this very personal thing that I'm feeling. Because I mean, writing a song, like this, like writing a song is one of the most personal things you can do, especially if it's meant to be yours. If it's meant to be something you're putting out under your name, it's one of the most personal things you can do. But it's a strange line you have to walk, because you do, while you're writing it. At least for me, while I'm writing the song, I do also understand that people have to be able to relate to where I'm coming from and understand what I'm trying to say. So, I think for me, as long as I'm getting that, base emotion across, through the lyrics that I write, through the music, that I choose, I've kind of done my job. And honestly, for me, the songwriting process ends up being more of a healing kind of therapeutic thing for me at the time, because usually if I'm writing it, I'm coming from a certain emotional state. I'm coming from sadness or anger or something, and I'm trying to work through that with a song. The other day, I me and my wife had kind of just a heartfelt moment, and immediately after we were done with this, I picked up a guitar and just sat down and just wrote a song from start to finish. And that doesn't always happen. Sometimes they take, a lot longer, but, I think when you're working off of an emotion or a feeling that is so strong in that moment, I'm really just trying to put that down on the page, or put that down in the song as well I can, and best represent that emotion as best I can. So yeah, I think it is a very, it's a very close experience, writing music.
I completely agree. And I think too, for myself, like I started songwriting because of the therapeutic aspect. I didn't even think about releasing a songs or being an artist or anything when I started doing songwriting, because I discovered it's something that I could do for myself to let these emotions out and find healing and find clarity. And so I think for true songwriters like we are, that's the basis of why we do this, to process things. And then we make the decision to craft the song in a way that's relatable and universal and put it out there for other people to experience as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you're talking about creating Only Light I Need, you mentioned the music, and I want to talk more about this because when you listen to the song, it's very vulnerable and raw. The acoustic guitar really drives it, and your vocals too just have so much emotion. So can you talk about the whole recording process of the song?
Yeah, definitely. So for this one, and for a lot of the songs on this record, I say we as me and my band, we had been touring these songs for a while, and had a lot of opportunities to kind of tighten up the arrangements and stuff while we were on the road before we even got in the studio. And this one was kind of had a good roadmap to it from the start. So like you said, it is acoustically driven. it starts out basically just acoustic and vocal for, I mean, the first, I think even 2 verses really. But it starts out there, and then we kind of, as it builds an emotion, and as it builds an attitude, so does the production. So the band is coming in, I think around the second chorus, and it really builds into this kind of really anthemic kind of bridge, this musical, there's a guitar solo, there's some really nice background vocals. It's this big lush kind of sonic space that you're taken to at the bridge. And I love that. I love, the whole song is basically one giant crescendo from start to finish. And I think, I think we're talking about, how emotion plays into the songwriting process, but it also does play into the production process as well, because when we originally recorded it and finally, got all the pieces that we wanted in place, and the first time I listened to it back through some headphones when everything, like a rough mix, when we first had like a first mix of it, once it goes from this small kind of vulnerable place into this big anthem near the end, I remember the first time I listened to it, I was just crying because it's also like you're crying tears of joy because it's just for a couple different reasons. One is because it just sounds good. Like if you just know you have something that sounds good, that's just so fantastic. You feel like you've accomplished something, right? But 2, it's because I've had this picture of this song in my head for so long. Because even as soon as I write a song and complete it, I'm already thinking about, okay, well, how's it going to sound though, after production is on it? So how's it going to sound in the studio? And you have this picture or this kind of soundscape in mind in your head, and when you finally get to that in a reproducible way, and you can record it and get it on the track, and it's there, and it's just exactly how you picture it, there's just this like magical, joyful feeling to that. And for me, it's also, the band I've been playing with they're my best friends. One of them is actually my older brother. So it's, I'm very close to these dudes, and when you make something with people and it just really turns out the way you want it to, it's just an incredible feeling. And yeah, I really think that Only Light I Need in particular just kind of checked all the boxes that I wanted. It made me go on this kind of journey. It does show that kind of vulnerable side in the beginning, but it also can really take you to a very powerful and strong place by the end of the song. And I don't know, I really, really enjoy this song a lot.
Oh, it's fantastic. And I literally agree with every single thing you said about the magic of hearing these songs back and feeling the emotion. And the fact that you were able to create this song and the rest on the album with your bandmates, your great friends, is really special, because I think that definitely contributes to the whole emotional atmosphere. Because when I'm recording with my producer, my guitarist, who's a really great friend, it's such a relaxed and amazing atmosphere that I'm able to allow myself to show emotion and be vulnerable. And I think it's
Right.
important to have those people, because if you're in a room with people that you just met or you're not really close to and you don't feel comfortable with, you can't really let that emotion come out. And so I think when you get into the recording aspect, or even co-writing, when you're writing a song with somebody, you need to have that trust there in order for that emotion to come out.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I think, if you're in a room of strangers, I think you can fake it to some degree, and you almost don't even know you're doing it. But when it's with people that you know and love and trust, I think when it's with people that you trust, that's a big deal, because no matter, we spent a good amount of additional time in the studio just kind of fine-tuning this song and making sure that what we had been playing on the stage would transfer to the recording studio. and thankfully it did. But it worked because we've been playing with each other for so long that we trust each other's instincts, and we know that each person kind of has each other's back in a certain way. So it's a really it's a special thing to make music with your friends.
It definitely is. So now let's talk about your album, Blue Wall. So, when you're creating an album, as we both know, there are great emotional moments and more challenging ones. And so, what are some of your favorite or best emotional moments while creating the album? And what are some of the more overwhelming moments that you had?
Yeah. So I think this album in particular has been really quite emotional as far as just the whole experience. The recording process was emotional in its own way, but it was very good. It was very smooth. It took a little longer than I wanted it to, but that's because we were touring at the time and just trying to kind of find any time that we could to get in the studio. But for me, I think one of the best things, or one of the best emotional moments for me making this album was making the title track. Blue Wall is it's a song about my home. It's a song. I still live in this small town that I've grown up in my whole life in South Carolina, and it's a beautiful little town at the foothills of the mountains, and it's just a place that's been a really great place to grow up, and especially in the last couple of years, I've kind of felt this reconnection to my home in a lot of ways. And I think, I definitely don't want to say the pandemic has been a good thing, but I do think that moment to kind of slow down and reconnect with family and friends and really reconnect with this area by just, going out in nature and spending time and kind of just wandering around in this neck of the woods has, it's been a really healing thing for me, I think. And I think it was something I needed to feel that I didn't know I needed to feel. So when I wrote Blue Wall is another name for the Blue Ridge Mountains, and those are the mountains that I'm grown up around my whole life. And it just felt like I finally wrote a good song about my home, because, I've always wanted to write something about this area, about my hometown. And it's always, there's a fine line between writing a nice emotional song about your home and writing a really cheesy song about your home. And I think that I did the right thing with this one. But I remember when I finished this one, it just felt so natural, and it felt just really good. Like I said, I think I've said it already, but I felt just reconnected. So that's definitely a positive. I would say, I don't know if I want to say a negative, really, because it's not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. But when I feel my most overwhelmed when releasing an album is after it is done, after it's recorded, and you're looking to figure out how to promote it, and you're, working with different partners to try and get it out there to as many people as possible. And right now I've been very lucky. I've got some really good people on my team that are helping me out, but it's also just a lot to do.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
it's just a lot to do, and it never really stops. And I think right now I'm kind of in this situation. I mean, honestly, like right before we got on this phone call, I was kind of having this same situation. Like, oh my gosh, I have so much on my plate right now. Plus with, and I think, for me, I'm putting this album out in January, which means all the promotion and stuff is happening over the holidays, which is also really hard to do when you're trying to, get Christmas presents for everybody, and you're trying to make sure you see all the family you want to see. And, especially with the pandemic and stuff the last couple of years, now we're kind of finally starting to be able to go and see the family that we haven't seen. And there's people that you gotta reconnect with. So it's trying to put an album out while doing all of that has been not my favorite thing in the world, but But at the same time, I knew that I couldn't wait any longer. I had waited so long to put this record out, and part of that was out of just not knowing what to do during the pandemic. Well, not knowing what the right move was during the pandemic. I didn't know if I should I'll just rip the Band-Aid, release it all right now, or should I, put a couple singles out and build up anticipation. There's a whole slew of different routes you can take, and I'm glad we're doing it the way I'm doing it with a couple singles and putting it out. But it's just a lot of I think where it really gets down to it for me is it's a lot of talking about yourself, and for me that sucks. I hate doing it. I cannot stand doing it. I think I've gotten better at it, but just going on social media every day and just kind of shouting to the void like, hey, I've got this music out. I think you'll like it. I hope you like it. Oh man, oh God, please like it. That's emotionally taxing to me, and I know that there are a lot of people out there that are a lot better at it than I am, and I commend those people. But it's just one of those things that, like, again, I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, because I love the fact that I'm finally putting this record out. I cannot wait to get it all out there. But it's just a lot of work, and I don't think a lot of people, unless you are an artist unless you are an independent artist, a lot of people just don't really realize how much work it takes to put out a record.
Completely agree. Yeah, I really appreciate you opening up about all of this, because many people don't know. But just try to really enjoy the moment when it releases. Let everything else just drift away and sit there and be like, wow, it's out.
Exactly.
I remember when I released Dear Diary, I was on the phone with one of my best friends. I was waiting up till midnight. And when it came out, I literally, kid you not, I just sat on my bed and started weeping. Like, I literally just started crying. I'm like, cannot believe this album is out after all these blood, sweat, and tears. Like, it's out. Oh my God.
Yeah, it is a big. I'm waiting for that just wave of relief, and you get, like, I've gotten a little bit of it, with like the last single going out. As soon as that launched, I was like, oh my God, I did all I could do. And like, there it is. People like it, and it's great, and it's had a good life so far. And the next one's coming out in a couple days, and that'll be great. But like, it is just, I am kind of waiting for that, like, that deep breath to take, and I think on January 14th I will take that deep breath. It'll feel
Yeah.
so good.
For sure. So I have a couple more questions for you before we wrap things up. So, looking at the album as a whole, what do you hope your listeners take away from it, either emotionally or conceptually? What do you hope this album shows your listeners?
I think for me, and this is, it's not I wouldn't say this album is a concept album, because I didn't write all the songs at one time, and they didn't all have a certain theme that tied them all together. But for me, if I had to take, a takeaway from this album, I would want it to be a little bit of what I said earlier. Is just, take stock of what you have. There's songs on this record that deal directly with that. There's songs on this record that deal with, loss of a loved one in the sense that maybe someone had passed. There's loss of relationships that, maybe could have gone differently. And I think that after all of those experiences, the main thing is just like, man, you really gotta look around you and well, like you said, just really live in the moment. You've gotta again, just be appreciative of who you are in this moment and your journey and all the people that are around you and the people that are supporting you and lifting you up, and try to lift those people up in return. And that's what I'd like people to take away from it. Who knows what they'll actually take away from it, but I mean, that's at least that's the sense that I get when I listen to the album. That, and just, also just kind of, there's a little bit of a don't forget your roots kind of feel to it. So I think that's also something that could maybe take away.
Fabulous. So, out of all the songs on the album, which one do you connect to most emotionally, and why?
I think for me, just on a personal level, I think it has to be Blue Wall, just because it's so I mean, the lyrics in that are very personal lyrics, and the fact, like, I'm kind of, if you go through the song, it's naming, it's told from the perspective of several different people, and for me, when I listen to that song, it's truly a song about my home. I mean, there are references in it that are so personal to me that no one will really understand, and unless they're maybe from a small town, that would probably, they would probably pick up on that. But like there's a line in there. So I live very close to a racetrack, like a drag racetrack. So every Thursday and Saturday, there's these just these giant monster sounds of these really, really loud, really fast cars just coming over the trees. Like, that's what it just sounds like. It sounds like there's a T-Rex out in the woods or something. And there's a line in there that is talking about someone who is maybe racing at that track, and you're going to hear basically it says something like, you're going to hear the beast scream in every county of the Blue Wall, which for me is a very personal thing because I hear it every Saturday night. But it's just, there's little moments in that song that really just, they just plant me where I belong, which is right here in the upstate of South Carolina. So I think that one's probably the most emotionally attached to me.
Fabulous. Now I have a question that's a little interesting, but I'm really curious to hear what you say about this. So a lot of songwriters say that you can kind of compare songwriting to acting, because even if you're writing a song about yourself, or if it's another character in the song that's not necessarily you, you really have to put yourself in the shoes of the singer and really portray that, especially while recording and performing. So have you found any parallels between your time acting on Glee and being a singer-songwriter and putting this album out?
I really haven't stopped to think about it very much, but that does make a lot of sense. And I think, I'm sure I have. I think, for me, when I was acting on Glee, it was such a new experience for me. I'd never acted before in my life, and it was such a new experience for me that I was, in a lot of ways, just trying to get through it without fully understanding how to do the best job that I could. And I don't mean that, I don't necessarily think I did a bad job. I know that I was there portraying this character, but I think the reason that it worked for me is because the writers of that show so closely wrote that character to my personality, and they do that for almost everybody on the show. But it was really kind of tailored for me, so it wasn't as much acting as it was kind of reacting in a lot of ways. But as far as a parallel to songwriting, there definitely are parallels because of, in songwriting, you aren't always telling your personal story, right? So, you have to, and I think John Prine is probably the best example of that. He can, tell a story of somebody and really just step into their shoes, and you'd never know that it wasn't his unless he named someone else. Like, it's unbelievable to me how he can kind of get in the head of a character that is either made up or just someone he was thinking about. It is definitely a parallel there, because you do have to just kind of step into someone else's shoes and try to write a story from their perspective, which is really really difficult sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
Because if I'm writing a song about an older person that's experienced a lot more life than I have, I have to kind of, there's guesses that you have to take as to how they would feel, or experiences that they would have had. So yeah, it's definitely, I would say there's a lot of parallels between acting and songwriting.
Fabulous. Well, it was lovely having you on the show. Before you go, can you share with the listeners any last thoughts about your emotional journey creating Blue Ball?
I think really I'd just like to say, if you're someone out there who, listens to the album, I hope you enjoy it. I hope that it speaks to you in a way that it spoke to me, and hopefully these songs that I poured so much time and love into can really show you guys some love. I really enjoy, making music for my living. I count myself very lucky to be able to do this, and I know that is not possible without the listener. So I really, really appreciate you guys, and yeah, I just hope you enjoy it.
Fabulous, Noah. Can you let everybody know where they can find you on social and listen to your music?
Sure, yeah. So you can listen to my music basically wherever you listen to your music. So Spotify, Apple Music, all those fun places. If you just search Noah Guthrie, you'll find me. As far as socials go, you can follow me on Instagram at only1noah, and then also on Facebook and Twitter at only1noah as well. I do have a TikTok. Finally doing TikTok. So
I haven't done mine yet.
Yeah, it's, you know what? I was so intimidated by it at first, and now I really, really enjoy it. So if you want to follow me on TikTok, I would love to have you. It's noahguthrie.music on TikTok. So yeah, just wherever you guys want to hang out with me online, I'll be there.
Awesome. Noah, thank you so much again for joining me. It was an honor having you. Listeners, thank you for listening, and be sure to check out Blue Ball and show Noah all the love and support. And of course, until next time,
Stay right on track.